Puritan history, and I've been reading about a guy called Alexander Henderson. And King Charles was trying to, and Archbishop Laud, were trying to take over the Church of Scotland, impose a form of worship. And Henderson and others were objecting to this imposition of the state upon the church. And I've been reading quite a bit of Rushdoony. I've read a series of lectures of his on the history, on uh, world history. I've also read a biography of his, A Life of Rushdoony, and some key articles of Rushdoony. And one of the main things that Rushdoony was stating is that when society leaves the church and Christianity and becomes autonomous away from the doctrine of Scripture, then the state becomes a god. And he was saying that you have two problems. You have individual people wanting to be autonomous, independent, and the state wanting to be autonomous, and the two clash, and there'll be a conflict. But the thing that he was saying is that the weaker the church is, the more the state will control the family, will control education, and in a way, the state becomes a god. So, reflecting on Rushdoony, reflecting on Henderson, I want to pose a question. We are on a trajectory. For those who don't realize it, we are on a trajectory, and Rushdoony theologically has been prophetic. We are on a trajectory where the states in the West are becoming more and more encroaching on our freedoms. We've seen that with COVID-19 when our freedoms were taken away, all in the name of well-being and helping us. And that's one of the tyrannies of the age now, is that, oh, it's for your well-being, so we make these laws for your well-being, we make these rules for your well-being, but it's an encroachment, a taking away of our freedoms more and more. And the trajectory is, in the West, because the church has been muffled, been made to be silent, where the church thinks it should only focus in its own area, the gospel, and in its own area. Rushdoony is saying the church has become muffled and become silent as the state becomes more like God and controls our freedom and takes away our freedom. And so we're seeing that even when COVID-19 came in, families couldn't even meet. You couldn't even go to the shop. You couldn't even worship in a church. The state completely took over everything, all in the name of well-being. And so the question that I have, with the trajectory that we're on, this is going to become more and more and more and more part of the stable and future of the West, where the state is going to continue to encroach upon our privacy, encroach on our freedom of worship, encroach on some of the basic values that we've all held dear, our freedom of speech, our freedom to assembly, our freedom to disagree. All these are being eroded and taken away by states that think that are operating as God. And so we're witnessing an age of tyranny, and it's also an age of revolution. The neo-Marxists, they're not interested in debate and discussion or goodness or justice. They're interested in tearing down, pulling down. So all this wokeism is just neo-Marxist identity politics, and it's revolution, as Rushdoony would say, where they just want to destroy all institutions that were of the past and Christianity. There's no debate in it. It's just, let's destroy it. We saw that with Antifa last year with the riots and things. It was just, and BLM pulling down monuments. It's an age of revolution where there's no rationalism, there's no debate, no discussion. And it's an age of tyranny, state tyranny, where the states are becoming more like God. So in the midst of all that, I want to ask a question. Are we applying the Lordship of Christ in every domain of life? Are we pushing back against this tyranny? Are we pushing back against this irrationalism that we see? This revolution that we see. A revolution is going on in America and in Canada, in Australia, in Britain, in Europe. A revolution is going on in the Western Hemisphere. Make no bones about it. It's a revolution. Rushdoony theologically prophesied about this years ago, that the state will become more and more powerful and become more like God. And it would be a revolution where they would tear down the old institutions and root out Christianity. And that's what we're seeing. The state will not allow people to do home education. The state wants to control every school, every institution. And those, to get its way, it's willing to do revolution. And in the midst of that, where's the kickback from the church? I'm not into prophecy, but where's the prophetic element, as Rushdoony would say? Where is the prophetic element of the church? Where is the church speaking out against this revolution that we're seeing? Revolution in sexual ethics, revolution in education of children, where children are being taught about transgender. Where is the kickback from the church against this revolution? Where is the prophetic element of the church? It's been muffled because it's been told that we only have to do with our own house, the church. So long as we're focusing on the church, we're not focusing on any other area. But where does Christ's lordship begin and end? It not only begins in the church, his lordship is also in every other domain of life. And so we should be challenging those things that are bringing tyranny in. Now, the Covenanters, which I'm reading here, Henderson, I'd encourage you to read his life. This is the book that I'm reading there. But I would encourage you to read his life, Alexander Henderson and Samuel Rutherford. They took the whole of lordship. They would not allow the king or Archbishop Laud to use the secularism to control the Church of Scotland. They would not allow it, and they kicked back against it. But the church today is allowing the states in the Western Hemisphere to control it. Now, the states likes a weak and effeminate church that will do as it's told. And so the Church of England has become the lapdog of Britain, and there are churches in the Western Hemisphere, in other countries, that are just doing what the state wants. But the true church, the true biblical church, is not making a stand. It's not being prophetic. It's not speaking out. Did the church speak out in the defense of the truckers in Canada? Did the church speak out against the encroachments on worship? One or two did, but generally the church kept quiet. Generally the church was compliant. When all our freedoms were taken away, when they were not justified at all, under any circumstance, our freedoms were taken away to worship, our freedoms were taken away to assemble, our freedoms were taken away. And now, anywhere in the West, if you complain, if you stand up, you can have your bank account nullified, you can have your PayPal nullified, your Patreon nullified. They can stop your payments, they can stop, bring down your website, they can spy on you, governments now, they can shut you down, destroy your career in minutes. Where is the church speaking out against this? Where is the Lordship of Christ in all domain? Where are the men like Alexander Henderson today? There are few and far between. The heroes of the hour are people like Jordan Peterson, the people of some of the right-wing pundits that you see on the American TV. But it should be men of God, men of the word, men who are sound in the preaching of the word. They all should be the ones that are making a stand, that are bringing the whole of Christ's lordship in every domain. But instead we have kept ourselves to ourselves. And as we have done that, we have reaped the whirlwind. We have reaped the whirlwind because we did not make a stand. We did not speak out. We did not put our foot down. And there has to come a time when we put our foot down and say enough's enough. If we go to prison, we go to prison. And the time is now. The time is now. Before it's too late. Because what they'll do is they'll take you as a Christian and they'll put you in a mental hospital and they say, oh, your Christianity is mental delusion, and they'll put you on drugs in a mental hospital, and that'll be us. That'll be at the end of us. So now is the time to speak out. Now is the time to make a stand. Now is the time to draw a line in the sand. In every domain of life, we have to say Christ is Lord, and we can do no other. Because if we don't do that, then we will be judged for the age that will be called the ostrich church that put our head in the sand. I'm not on about right-wing politics. I'm not on about right-wing nationalism. I'm on about putting a line in the sand and saying enough is enough. We are not being pushed anymore in these areas. In the area of education, in the area of sex education with our children, in the area of free speech, where street preachers are being arrested. We're not putting up with it anymore. We're drawing a line in the sand. We're not putting up anymore that you can be a baker, a cake baker, and someone who's gay wants the cake made, and you say no because you don't believe in gay marriage, and you take it to the Supreme Court. We have to put a line in the sand and say enough's enough. It's too much putting our head in the sand and not doing anything or saying anything. These guys, these covenanters, Alexander Henderson, they weren't having it from us. They weren't having it from the Lord, from Bishop Lord. They weren't being told what to do in the church. They weren't being told how to worship in the Church of Scotland. They were saying that Christ is head of the Church of Scotland, not King Charles, not Bishop Lord, who was really acting as a secularist. But we're allowing these secular states who are acting like God, and they are hunting us down, and we are not even saying anything about it. They are hunting people down who do not agree with them. They will take you down. They will destroy you. So if they are coming after us, we have to say enough is enough and make a stand. Put a line in the sand. Because these people are revolutionary. They will seek and destroy. They don't believe in goodness. They don't believe in debate and discussion. They don't believe in justice. All they believe in is revolution. Destroy the old order. Pull down the monuments. Smash, destroy, burn, lie. We see it everywhere. That's what we're up against. Well, when you're up against that, there comes a time when you've got to confront evil and say, that's it. You push me in a corner, you push me and push me, and I can do no other. I'm going to make my stand. So God help me coming to the West again. God help me coming back to UK. Because if I come back to UK, I will be making my stand. Make no bones about it. I'll make my stand. But I'm in Africa. But if I was in UK, I'd make my stand. I'll put a line in the sand and say, I'm sorry, I can do no other. This is where I stand. I'm not having it anymore. You want to arrest me? You want to put me in prison? Well, go ahead and do it. But I ain't putting up with it anymore. I ain't taking it anymore. I'm not being pushed in the corner anymore. Being told I'm homophobic. Being told I'm against transgender. No, I'm for Jesus. I'm for the Bible. And I'll make my stand for Jesus. You want to go to hell in a handcart as a British government and American government and all these Western government. You want to go to hell in a handcart and destroy the nations, then that's your business. But you ain't going to push me in a corner and tell me to shut up. You ain't going to push me in a corner and say I can't preach the gospel. I can't be a Christian. Because I'm going to say that Jesus is Lord. And if you don't like it, tough. Put me in prison. I don't care. You're just a bunch of revolutionary nutters, and your revolution will be in ashes one day, and the church will rise out of the ashes. So you do your revolution. It don't matter to me, because you ain't going nowhere with it, because those who do revolution will come upon you. So you'll get what you deserve. That's what the French Revolution happened. They had the French Revolution. They thought they were doing great, but the revolution came back upon the revolutionaries. So you can do your revolution, BLM, pull down monuments, and all the rest of it. Antifa smashing buildings down, and governments lying through their back teeth and making laws where they take away people's freedoms and turning people upside down, saying little boys can be little girls and little girls can be little boys. You do your revolution, because it ain't going to get you anywhere. Your nations are collapsing before your very eyes. But enough's enough. Go and read Rushdoony. Go and read Rushdoony. Go and read the Covenanters. We ain't men anymore. We're boys. We ain't got no hairs on our chest. We ain't got no guts. There's no guts in the church. There's no men in the church. Instead, we have to rely upon the Tates. People like that who are not born again, not saved. People like Jordan Peterson who are not saved. We have to rely upon these people to speak out, to say things. There's no reform guys, no biblical guys that can make a stand, that can be a man. Just a bunch of boys, a bunch of effeminate weaklings who won't say nothing, who won't say a boo to a goose, who put their head in the sand. Where are the men like Rutherford and Alexander Henderson and John Bunyan and Samuel Rutherford and John Knox and John Calvin and Martin Luther? Where are the men like that today? The church is silent, effeminate, weak, pathetic. That's why the working class don't flood into the church, because the working class see that there's nothing in the church but effeminate nonsense. That's why many young men look to Tate and people like that, Jordan Peterson, because they're men. At least they're standing up. All right, they're not Christian, they're not born again, but they're showing some guts. We don't agree with the things they say, the things they do very often, but young men look to them because they're being men. They're making a stand. Even though we disagree with some of the things they get up to. But we like men in the church. Men that will speak out, men that will stand up, men that will put their chest out and say enough's enough. It's time to be a man. It's time to make a stand. It's time to put a line in the sand. Whether you're in Canada, Australia, whether you're in Germany, France, Britain, whether you're in Holland, whether you're in America, it's time to put a line in the sand and say enough is enough. You want to put me in prison, but I'm not having this revolutionary nonsense going on in the West anymore. We're having enough of it. The Lordship of Christ is coming in every domain of life, and if you don't like it, tough. They ain't going to debate with you. They ain't going to argue with you. They ain't going to seek goodness and justice. They're going to tear you down. They're going to eat you alive, but at least you made your stand. That's the age we live in. We're living in a revolutionary, wokeite, neo-Marxist, identity politics. We can't debate you, but we will savage and destroy you age. And we will cancel you. That's the age we're living in. But it's time to make a stand. It's time to make a stand. Next time I come to UK, I'll make my stand very, very clear. I'll make it very clear to the British government. I'll make it very, very clear. I'll make it very, very clear where I stand. I stand on the Word of God. I stand on Christ. And I'm not putting up with all the nonsense that's going on. All this transgender stuff, gay rights, taking away our freedoms, all this medical tyranny that we see. It's medical tyranny, using it as an encroachment to take away our freedoms. I'm not putting up with it anymore. I'm not going to be a yes man. If you want to cancel me, cancel me. I don't care. But if I come to UK ever again, there's only two ways I'm operating in UK. Either I come back to Africa or they put me in prison. But I ain't going to put up with the nonsense that's going on in my country and in the West. But you, many of you Christians out there, you are weak, effeminate, head in the sand, ostriches. You will not say anything, and look where it's got you. You think 2023 is going to be a sweet year? It ain't going to be a sweet. It's going to be tougher than it was before. It's going to be even harder. The forces that took away our freedom in 2020, they have not gone away. They are coming for us, and they're going to come even harder in 2023. They are coming for us. And they will root out every branch of opposition they can find. And they're already doing it now. But we can make a preemptive strike by sending shockwaves, by not cooperating, by putting our foot down and speaking out and saying no. Police officers come and tell us we shouldn't street preach. Sorry? Who do you think you are? No, I'm preaching the gospel. End of story. Oh, no, you can't preach here. You can't do this. You can't. Oh, can't we? Well, that's what we're doing. Oh, you can't. Oh, well, yes, we can. Things have rapidly changed. Education in UK, they're going to close down Christian schools. They're going to stop home education in the UK. They're going to do that in Holland. They're going to do that in America. This is where things are going. Anybody who opposes the status quo, you're going to be cancelled. That's where we are already. Your job will be lost. Your bank balance will be lost. Everything. It's already happened. But I've been challenged by Rushdoony. Rushdoony was from the Armenian people that were in Turkey, you know, the Armenians there. And he saw a whole generation of millions of Armenians slaughtered by the Islamic Caliphate of that time. He was a generation that saw the generation before slaughtered. And he never forgot it, how the state destroyed a people. And so we don't agree with everything with Rushdoony, but there's a lot of good things that Rushdoony says. And we would do well to read his books and listen to his lectures because they will help us to understand the times. He has made some brilliant lectures on Marxism, history, and they're very, very helpful. And we should also read the Covenanters, read Alexander Henderson, read Samuel Rutherford and these people. We would do well to do that. So the question is, are you going to bring the Lordship of Christ in every domain of your life? Are you just going to hide the Lord in the church and not bring the Lord out into the open? God bless you. Take care now. Are you okay, sweet?
Yeah. I was looking for houses.
Yeah.
And I saw a nice house.
What, in Winnipeg?
Upper West, the
Yeah.
northern region.